Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dynasty Gambit. Brought to you by Going for Two Live. Shout out to Jeff for all of that. But the Going for Two Live network available on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter for the videos, but not the comments. So if you want to comment, interact with us, suggest especially head over to YouTube, subscribe there to get notifications. And if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, do encourage and appreciate that you comment under the video. Helps us out a lot. And yes, like I said, subscribe, like, and I like what we're going to talk about tonight, mock drafts and stuff with one of my co-hosts here, Devin. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely awesome. It's great. Summer's here and redraft season's almost here, but we can still, we're the Dynasty game, but we're always going to talk Dynasty.
Oh, man. I've done so many best ball leagues on DraftKings lately. $5, $5. I've been doing so many of them. So I'm ready for all of draft season to be here already now.
Well, someone who's always ready to podcast, talk Dynasty draft, Zach Pulowski. No further introduction needed. Almost a co-host yourself. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me. I was glad to be here. Always ready to talk football, Dynasty especially. And yeah, I need to get in more of those best balls like Devin's talking about.
I can't say I'm opposed to more drafting. And I know we're going to be talking about more details of the mock draft that we did the other time. And I know we're expecting Gerson as well. We'll see if he comes shortly. I didn't send him the invite link. That's why. Okay, so hopefully that's on me, everyone. So hopefully Gerson's here soon. It's not because of him at all. So don't blame Gerson for being late. That's all on the host here tonight. That's me. But yeah. I guess we're so into the drafts, not taking care of the business, but yeah. So I guess any Dynasty news? Oh yeah, I guess Baker Mayfield, right? The Baker Mayfield trade to Carolina. Yeah. So any quick thoughts there, Zach? You want to get started?
I mean, it doesn't really change that much. I guess it kind of helps me talk myself into DJ Moore. I already like DJ Moore. It's more so the Terrace Marshalls, Tommy Tremble, some of those guys that I might use this as a reason to sell myself more, but there's still really not a lot of upside there. It's going to be DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, and the rest is kind of just a crapshoot.
Yeah, I mean, I know he couldn't really benefit OBJ too much when it came to like touchdowns and passing, so it's kind of hard to get too excited over it. Like you said, some of the other guys where Tremble, all of them, I think it does benefit them, but overall, I didn't move DJ Moore up my rankings at all because of the signing. So I think that's a pretty good indicator that it's just a meh kind of move. It might only be a 1-year thing. He's only on a 1-year deal. So it's kind of a prove it to get a starting job somewhere else or possibly stay long-term. So pretty minimal impact as of right now for me.
Well, and I think just quick, I guess, parentheses on the topic, but what is DJ Moore's dynasty value currently? Because if it hasn't changed much, is he inside or outside the top 12 wide receivers in Dynasty?
For me, I don't know exactly where I had to pull up my rankings, but I'm pretty sure he's out of it for me. I think he's top 20, but I don't think he's in the top 12 for me.
It's like I was flirting with 15 for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was going to say. I think maybe a little higher in redraft now. I mean, he might even in redraft, I don't think I could put him in the top 12. But yeah, so we're I think he maintains his role as a top 20 wide receiver, but not the true difference maker. Not going to be the top 10 that really separates themselves from the rest of the pack. So
he's one of those...
again, not to elevate his price, I think is the key.
He's just such a tricky guy. I mean, Carolina just does this weird QB carousel of guys that other franchises have given up on. It's like, well, hopefully this QB that the other team gave up on can provide more for him. But at what point will they have someone that's actually worthwhile that can help these guys produce? Because I think DJ Moore has the talent. I don't think anyone's arguing against that. But we never know when he's actually going to have a respectable QB throwing him the ball.
Yeah, I was hoping he was going to sign an extension elsewhere, and then he ended up signing that extension this year with Carolina. But yeah, I'm kind of soured on him in general, just because, I mean, he's a great asset. Obviously, he's a great player, but I had him in a couple different dynasty leagues, and I've traded him away in all of my different. So I have no shares of him anymore. It's just got to be very frustrating as an owner when you see him, giving you, 7-8 points a week, giving 8 catches, 80 yards, something like that, not really doing the most. So until they start producing with a quarterback, it's kind of hard for me to rank him anywhere close to breaking the top 10.
But yeah, I think, and we got a question in the chat. Devin, you want to pull that up?
Yeah.
Jamie, who's always, I know I noticed him speak on it live Tuesday. Jamie's always supporting us at Going for Two. So we'll.
Saw Jamie in the chat yesterday on the Podfather show too. Had a familiar face talking in there with me.
It's funny that you see a lot of the same faces over and over in the same channel supporting. So yeah, appreciate that, Jamie. So yeah, so over under 4 touchdowns this year. What are we thinking?
I'm gonna say under.
I'll go over. I think 4 seems relatively low, but it's tough to say. I mean, it's Baker Mayfield. Say he's the full-time starter. He's still going through 20, like high 20s for touchdowns, and they can't all go to Christian McCaffrey.
No, for sure. Well, yeah, we'd imagine. I think certain McCaffrey managers would love that, but
yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. So, do you guys know how many touchdowns DJ Moore scored? Because I think Jamie probably does know, and that's why he asked 4 in particular.
He had 4 last year.
Yeah, 4 the past 3 years.
Yeah,
exactly. And I know you look at, you talk about touchdown regression, and a lot of it is when someone has an outlier season, regress to what their career average is. You generally try and look at career averages, especially for touchdown, and regressing to whatever that career average is. You can obviously take context. Okay, younger player, into year 2 or going into year 3, they've got 2 years of data, increasing touchdowns year 1, year 2, do they regress back to that, in between year 1 and 2, or do they continue to evolve? That's always a tricky question and a nuance. But for a guy like DJ Moore, you look at averages in a few different ways. I know Peter Howard has a stat. I think Jamie was in Peter Howard's video last night as well in the live chat there. But he's talked about I think he's got the average since like 2009 at this point. So now we're talking 12 NFL seasons, 13 NFL seasons, I guess. And basically the yards from scrimmage average for a scrimmage touchdown for running backs, wide receivers, tight ends is 155 yards, right around there. So if you look at that average, DJ Moore should have, based on his 1,000-yard seasons over the last 3 years, he should have 29 touchdowns in his career. I think I calculated it was 28.75, double what he's actually had 14 through his career. So it's funny. You look at touchdown regression in 2 ways. If you're looking at just DJ Moore's career average, you'd say probably under. He's never gotten more than 4, so why would we expect him to start more now? But the other NFL average touchdown regression says he should have gotten more than 4 every year. So why would we ever bet against him getting more than 4? So I have no idea which side to go on, because I think either side has a logical leg to stand on. I'll trust that, Baker, not a massive upgrade, but can we agree he's the best quarterback that DJ Moore's ever had?
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it's funny, if I own DJ Moore in a dynasty league, or I'm refusing to trade for him or trade him away, or if I just traded for him, I'm going to say this is the year he finally goes over. But if I'm like Devin and I just got rid of all my DJ Moore stock, I'm going to say, why would I believe that he's ever going to break that 4? And I can see both sides, but it's not a bet I want to make either way, because it's really hard to see a pathway to really get more. I don't know. He's such a perplexing player, because the talent's there, the yards are there, the targets. I mean, 93 receptions to 4 touchdowns. You'd really just expect more, but it's a team that just doesn't get into the red zone that often.
Yeah, a lot of them are the touchdowns that he takes from 30, 40, 50 yards out. They're not, he's not really a red zone guy, because like you said, they don't even get in the red zone half the time anyway. But usually when it's that point anyway, it's Christian McCaffrey time with some kind of gadget move or anything like that. Maybe Tremble, being a bigger guy, might be some more targets for that this year. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, 4 is pretty much right there. Like if I had a bet, I'd probably put it at 4. I bet he's probably going to come in at Vegas at like 4.5, somewhere in there. So that'd be a tough one. It's going to be close.
And just like, I know, and this, I don't know if we want to dredge back into all the quarterbacks that DJ Moore's ever had, but could we argue, like Cam Newton, career-wise, probably the best, but in terms of specifically throwing touchdowns, could we argue maybe Bridgewater's been the best he's had to like accomplish that?
Yeah, and you got to think about the years that DJ Moore had Cam. I mean, that final,
Mhm.
what the Cam's final season when he got hurt and then went to New England and all that was DJ Moore's first year. And Cam wasn't good then. He hasn't had Cam Newton MVP type caliber guy. He's had the washed up version. So
I
I
think he
would,
had, because I'm thinking 2018, right? If that class has
yeah,
played 4 seasons, so Cam played 14 games that year. So his rookie year was, like you're saying, his rookie year was the only year we really had him because he only played 2 games the next year, super
yeah.
injured, and then left for New England. But like you look at the, I guess that last year, Cam had a 5.1% touchdown rate. And DJ Moore only had 2 touchdowns because I think, back in 2018, Greg Olson was still probably, and McCaffrey, like those two probably monopolized most of those touchdowns. And then from there, like we said, Bridgewater, he's been the highest so far. And like the year he was in Carolina, 3% touchdown rate, which is actually below Bridgewater's career average. So that was even a low season for that sake. So Baker Mayfield, career touchdown percent of 4.8. It doesn't look amazing if you just say 4.8 compared to like a Rodgers at 6.3%, or even a Kirk Cousins who I calculated his career average at like 5.6, I believe. But if you compare it to basically every other quarterback he's had, again outside of his rookie year with Cam, it's been quarterbacks incapable of throwing multiple touchdowns a game and getting those totals. So Baker kind of gives more hope towards that. So I guess coming back to it, if I believe in that truly, that Baker can kind of be slightly better enough, he can probably get 5 touchdowns. That's all we're pushing for. So Jamie, to go a long-winded way, I'm gonna say over. Now I am doing I'm just started yesterday actually, going through all teams, trying to project touchdowns for every player on teams, not doing full projections with receptions and touchdowns. I'm going a lot of just like career averages for players as well as league average numbers, like I was talking about, scrimmage yards, 155 per touchdown. So just going through that. So I'll know when I get to Carolina what I put DJ Moore at, but I'd guess right now I'd probably put him more than 4. Gladys is also coming in. Just coming off I guess a 2/3-point conversion episode this week.
Actually, no, we didn't do one because of 4th of July.
Right. Yeah, no, sorry. I'm thinking, yeah. So I guess not even next week because it's Scott Fishbowl and I've got that episode. So 2 weeks from now, check out the 2-point conversion. 2 weeks, well, a little less than 2 weeks, 10 days, I think. Math's not. Actually, it is my strong suit, but I'm just not putting any effort into it because we want to talk mock drafts, not to make a mockery of mathematics, but I'm just gonna share my screen again to talk about basically what we showed last week was the draft board. Yeah. So from here, I think what did we do? We got through 3 rounds, didn't we? Where we went pick by pick, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So maybe what we'll do instead is start in the 4th round and just kind of like standout picks, a player that went either too high or too low, kind of starting in that 4th round where I started taking Saquon Barkley. So, Zach, did you notice anything that you wanted to that you wanted to share again about this 4th round in particular? It can be either direction.
There's nothing I really hate pick wise in this round. I mean, it's kind of that middle tier where I think there's a consensus of the top guys are already gone, and it's moving on to that next gap of like 3 through 6, where it's kind of all personal opinion. I mean, someone like Etienne for myself at 4-6, I know I'm higher on than some people, but I'm aggressive on him either way. But I can easily see people making the cases for a Derrick Henry, a J.K. Dobbins, Ken Walker. And it's tough, too, with the dynasty format because, some of these guys, we don't know how immediate they're going to produce, or you're betting on the return from injury with someone like Saquon. It's these running backs are really interesting in these middle rounds because there's a lot of questions. What are your guys' thoughts with the running backs in the 4th?
Well, it's funny. You got two guys from that same draft class, Chubb and Barkley, and 2 guys that have yet to play an NFL snap in Etienne and Walker. So kind of interesting dynamics there. I mean, I took Barkley, so I'm clearly okay with that price on both Barkley and Chubb.
Yeah. All three of us actually took running backs in this round, 3 of the 4. So
There we go. And I mean, I like Walker more than Etienne in Dynasty personally. So given the choice, Zach, I probably would have gone Walker over Etienne personally. Whereas I kind of view Etienne closer to Dobbins. I would probably put that in my rankings. So
I have Etienne finishing as RB6 this year. So
there you go. And then so it definitely seems that would be a good value for you, and you definitely think that makes sense.
So for me, in my eyes, it's like, oh sweet. But I see the case. I like Walker a lot. I think he's going to be their clear number one running back by probably midway through this year. I mean, I think I have a hard time seeing either of those guys stay healthy with Carson or Penny. And I think Walker's also just the most talented of the three anyway.
Mhm.
And I think that's where, if everyone's healthy, he'll still earn it.
More than anything, that's kind of what Pete Carroll's been consistent, right? Doesn't matter young or old, he'll go with the better talent. And I know everyone's kind of using like Penny not being able to surpass Carson as a boost for Penny and saying, oh, well, the veteran, right? They go with the veteran back. The rookie will be able to surpass him. But to me, it kind of loses a bit of the argument when Penny was that player that couldn't surpass. Like I'm looking more at if he wasn't capable of surpassing the next guy, why would he be more likely to think that he prevents the following player from coming up and taking his job? If it was Carson again, I mean, you talk about stay healthy with Carson. Like, do either of you believe Chris Carson's going to play football ever again?
I don't.
No.
I don't think he even should. I really I know he's trying to come back and everything for it, but man, like when you start messing with your neck, I mean, it's just you had a good career, you have a lot to be proud of. It's time to hang it up.
And you don't want to see these guys have, life affecting injuries either, especially with the neck stuff, the spinal. Like, as much as he was fun at times on the field to watch, I don't want to see him have any long term effects that he puts himself in jeopardy. I'd rather have him hang him up now. And I think Walker's the real deal. And it's an interesting team where Walker I like because, well, it's Drew Lock, it's Geno Smith there. And I mean, we've already seen the Drew Lock experience plenty. It should be a run first offense. And, I expect them to not be a very competitive team. So I just assume most of the workload's coming towards Kenneth.
Yeah, just for a dynasty perspective, getting him in the 4th round for me at the end of the 4th round and, getting a 21-year-old running back, even though he hasn't taken a snap in the NFL, but, there's a lot of value there for taking my first running back at that point. So I was pretty happy to get him there. There's not a lot of really young ones left at that point. That's when you start seeing a lot of the guys like Henry and Aaron Jones, Fournette, Elliott. A lot of them start going into the next couple of rounds. So it was kind of the last guy to, build upon your team, hopefully.
Well, yeah, and it comes into like the tiers, and I think like Breece Hall does creep up into that top 5 tier. 1, 2. He was the RB6 in our mock, so kind of elevate into that next tier, and then you've got 5 in a row of really productive but older guys: Eckler, Mixon, Cook, Barkley, Chubb, and then it gets to the 3 young guys in Etienne, Walker, and Dobbins. And I know Henry creeps in there, and then you have Akers. And then it's kind of that mix. I think that's, again, that tier you're talking about. I'm almost shocked that Gibson went as low as he did. Like, out of most of those, like Etienne, Dobbins, Akers, I prefer Gibson just being healthier than all of them. I know he was dealing with injuries last year, but not nearly as significant and serious. So, like, I'd rather have Gibson and Walker just coming in healthier, fresher than all 3 of those other guys personally. So Gibson 6th round is kind of a value just on the topic of running backs more than anything, like into this 4th to 6th round. Like is there a receiver I should have gone instead of Barkley to where I could have got Gibson instead of taking Jerry Jeudy to build my team better? But probably Deontay. Diggs, Deontay, then Evans, Gibson. Maybe I'd rather build my team that way.
I have a hard time buying into the Gibson hype. He just scares, his fumble rate just scares me, and I really like Brian Robinson. I know there's talk of using him in the red zone and the goal line stuff, but I think Brian Robinson overall is more talented. I mean, it's more of a hot take, but for me, I'm expecting Brian Robinson to win the job by the end of the year. I'm not a Gibson guy. I haven't been, and I've been waiting for someone to have enough talent to come in and just steal the job from him. So for me, like 6th is good value if he can maintain it, but I'm not trying to be aggressive on getting him.
One more thing, going back to the 4th round. I found it interesting that Zach Wilson went 404 and then Tua went 508.
Yeah.
A round and a half later. Whereas I think just even before the NFL draft, it probably would have been flipped where Tua would have been going a round and a half earlier than Zach Wilson. So I find that disparity is interesting, and that might, trying to see maybe Zach Wilson went a little early. I think I'd probably rather have Cousins over Zach Wilson in a draft. I just traded away Zach Wilson on a dynasty team where I had Dak and Cousins, so clearly I'd rather roster Cousins. But maybe that speaks more to just like the value, I think, especially on Tua at 508 in a super flex draft. That seems like that's really good value for a quarterback that I think poses risk, but also improved situation, improved weapons, maybe a little less risk than there had been certainly entering like say January 2022, let's say. Probably a lot riskier of a prospect. So a really good value on Tua. Maybe the best value in the 5th round, him or Deontay.
Yeah, I mean, I like Tua for this year. There's some concerns, like we don't know what he is, but this is the year to prove it, It's the 3rd year. That's usually when I like to make my assessment on QBs anyway. But now he's clearly got the weaponry where we're going to firmly know one way or another. And it's a lot of risk, a lot of reward. Because if he sticks with these weapons, that 5'8" slot is a steal for what he could be. But it could also really bite you in the ass too if turns out with these new weapons, he's not the answer at QB and they're trying to shuffle it next year and get one in the draft or trade for someone. So
that's kind of why I assume he probably in the previous round went Zach Wilson before that. You're kind of guaranteeing yourself probably a little bit more rope. You got probably 2 more years of, unless Tua goes off this year. So let's say Tua fails. He's probably looking at a backup role, something like that. So taking Wilson, you're at least giving yourself the younger guy, the guy that's going to have a little more slack on his team before he gets to that 5th-year option. So I think I kind of understand why he did that way, but still would be pretty ecstatic to get to that late when, Lawrence is my other QB on that team. So high risk, high reward, but pretty good for that second.
I took Tua in a startup 2 days ago. 5th round, actually. I also have Tyreek. I took Tyreek and Jalen in the rounds prior, so I've got the Miami stack. So I'm feeling good about that.
That's a great result. That's really risky taking Tyreek there to kind of you're almost really banking on landing Tua in the next round. I get Waddle, the just young asset, that makes sense, but yeah, that's risk reward paid off, I suppose.
It was the price of where I was getting Tyreek.
Produces it pays off. Sorry.
Yeah. I agree though. I'm not the biggest Miami truther by any means, but I needed a second QB and a super flex, and I saw the opportunity stacking up where I could get all 3. And I was like, I guess this team is going to be my Miami offense because if it does work, I'm going to be feeling good about this roster.
Did I hear Gerson come in? No. Devin, can you check on the side?
I don't see him. No.
Oh,
yeah, okay. I don't see him.
Thought you did.
You guys
just keep an eye on that because I've got my eye on the shared screen.
Yeah, so no problem.
Go ahead, Zach.
With your picks though, when you're looking at these 4th and 5th round, so I noticed both of you have your 2 QBs and your wide receiver. Was it dead set, I'm taking a running back this round, or were there other guys that you guys were looking at here that could have pulled you away, made you wait another round on running back if they were available? Like if Diggs or Higgins fell to you at 4-1, would you have taken them over Barkley?
Well, I mean, I took Diggs at 312, obviously.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Even now, I'm thinking, should I have taken Deontay Johnson instead of Barkley? So even a guy that was there that fell, I'm kind of in hindsight thinking maybe I should have gone Deontay. And again, knowing Gibson and Montgomery and Aaron Jones all falling to the 6th round, can kind of be happy with them as an RB1 just as much as Barkley in the 4th, but not always expecting necessarily those 3 to fall there either. But yeah, that'd probably be my answer, is actually the player that wasn't on the board. But yeah, I probably could have started, Diggs, Higgins. I probably would have started that if those 2 were there.
Yeah, I'm looking at how my team ended up panning out. Wide receiver ended up being a pretty big weakness, considering my second wide receiver taken was Pickens. So, I was originally, after I got Walker and then went Dobbins, I was like, okay, I can get some good wide receivers. There's a lot of decent ones still left. Then right after Bateman got taken in the 6th round there, I was not really too excited about a lot of the guys that were left. I probably should have at least swung on, Elijah Moore, someone like that. So I definitely wish I would have took a receiver somewhere else, but at the time I was pretty happy getting the running backs that I got.
I mean, I
see Gerson's in here now.
Hey, Gerson, how you doing, buddy?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I ran late from work. And it was unexpected. But let's see. I just jumped in. So what I missed? I mean, I know I missed a lot.
We're
but
just kind of
we were talking
skipping
about
over where we've been.
Well, I think instead of going pick by pick, we're just kind of looking at each round at what picks really stood out. So we talked in the 4th round, just we each took running backs in the 4th round. So all the 3 of us kind of compared those guys: Barkley, Etienne, Walker, and even comparing to Dobbins, Gibson, Akers, and the guys that were in the next round. Talked about the disparity between Zach Wilson and Tua, a round and a half earlier for Zach Wilson over Tua. I found that a little strange, a little unusual.
Yeah.
And then, we're just, Zach and I were just talking about how Bateman went. Bateman, I guess, was the last guy in that tier. And my quick question is, I took Marquise Brown at that next turn. And so I guess tier break for you, Devin, sorry, Marquise Brown and Bateman, like you have a tier break difference between them where you'd prefer Bateman?
I think yeah. No, go ahead. That was for Devin, sorry.
That's I'm really high on Bateman. I actually made a couple moves for him this offseason, trading for him prior to him getting before Brown got traded. So now I'm like even more on him now. But yeah, I was really hoping it looked like he was going to fall, and then he didn't. And then I was just like, a lot of these guys I kind of have in the same tier, Brown, Olave, Mooney, Elijah Moore. A lot of those guys are all similar upside. I think Marquise Brown probably has the highest upside for, with DeAndre Hopkins being out this year, or at least for the first six weeks or whatever. I think there's a good chance he's going to perform really well with his college teammate quarterback. So, it was a tier break for me, and I thought I could get someone else, and then I kept waiting too long. So I got really bad wide receivers in this one.
But Gerson, you want to talk? So go ahead. Kind of talk about Bateman, I guess, is the subject at hand. So good pick by Doc there to take Bateman in the 6th round. Nice pick at 6th round.
Yeah, I'm high on Bateman too. It's more for the usage and stuff. Yeah, I understand the Marquise Brown and what's it called, Kyler Murray shower narrative, but I mean, I get it. But when DeAndre Hopkins comes back, he's going to take away a lot of that workload. Only way I see Bateman value getting hurt if Julio Jones signed with him, or even if OBJ signed with him, I don't think that would hurt him too much, because I don't think OBJ would be ready till I don't know, maybe January or December, But I like Bateman a lot more. I mean, Marquise Brown went what?
I took him at 801.
801. Okay, so I mean that seems okay. But I would take Bateman.
Not quite, but just a little bit over a round difference.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I've never been a huge Marquise Brown guy, but it's just me personal preference here.
That's the same boat. I've never been a big truther of his, so I actually don't have any exposure to him in any of my leagues. Actually, at the moment, while I'm thinking about it, so
I really never have either. And I do like Lamar Jackson. And I'm not I don't think Kyler Murray is necessarily all that better than Lamar Jackson, but I've gotten more into Marquise Brown. I guess that's maybe more. I don't think there's a receiver on the Cardinals better than Mark Andrews. So Marquise Brown can now fully spread his wings. So I've been investing more in him. since he's gone to the Cardinals personally. But yeah, I've also never been a big believer in his, just the height and some of those metrics and the size and the frame. I thought, okay, rather invest in the big bodied guys, but he has proven a lot in the NFL. He's caught a lot of passes. He's shown success. So I'll take Brown in the 8th. I actually thought that was a pretty good value there for getting to that range yet. But
I think so for sure. I'm kind of surprised, as much as everyone talks about Gabe Davis on Twitter and everywhere else, that he went as late as he did in our draft. I guess a lot of us aren't as high as what seemingly the fantasy community is on him, but
I can't do it with Gabe. I'm sorry. It reminds me of so many Green Bay years where you have like one top end wide receiver and a lot of guys that are also can be respectable, but it gets divvied up. Like we saw the Randall Cobbs or the James Jones kind of split the production, and then a Richard Rodgers. I look at the Buffalo the same way, and for me, it's if I'm taking Gabe Davis in say the 7th, 8th, 9th, like I know the fantasy community wants it to be a lot more aggressive on Gabe. I'd rather take Isaiah McKenzie in a really late round, take a flyer there with the upside, because he could easily get relatively close to the same amount of targets or receptions, and I'm paying a much cheaper price on him.
I think McKenzie's a little low. I like the idea with Shakir, even Jamison Crowder, like especially in a dynasty setup, he'll be a lot later. In redraft, he'll be probably more expensive, but I think especially in a dynasty, like where did Crowder even get drafted in this start?
I don't think we had Crowder got drafted.
So I like the idea of just scattershot with a few different Buffalo wide receivers for cheap.
Yeah,
I'm not sure that McKenzie's the guy I want to peg though, Zach.
I like McKenzie more. I like the late year run we saw with him, but I mean, I could see the case for any of them. But yeah, I'd rather take a flyer on any of them in the late teens, 20s than take Gabe in the late single digit rounds.
I'm also team Devin Singletary usually, so it comes from that bias, but I feel like James Cook like completely destroys Isaiah McKenzie's value. That kind of in between running back wide receiver role, if James Cook really is as good of a pass catcher as we kind of expect him to be, I feel like that anything that Mike McKenzie got last year is just going to all now go to James Cook. So my fear with McKenzie is that he is just a return player only. Like he's just going to be used on special teams, and the pass catchers we want are Davis, Knox, Crowder, and then probably the rookie Khalil Shakir. I'd rather invest late in him than McKenzie.
If it's dynasty, the one I'm probably if it's not Diggs, it's going to be Shakir, just for the long-term upside. Yep. Hoping that he can be more of what the hype of Davis is, that he can fulfill that more.
No, for sure. Yeah.
What?
I like Shakir for sure. Yeah. Sorry. Gerson, did you want to talk about anything that stands out to you, say in the 6th or 7th round, either players too early or too late?
Well,
let me see the board.
So, I don't know what just happened there. Oh boy.
Oh, hang on. All right.
I would not draft any Chicago Bears players.
Hey, come on. Moody's going to have a good year.
No, thank you. No, I'm kidding. I actually like Cole Kmet too. I can't see the board because I'm on my phone, but
I mean, we had like the 6th was Judy, Kamara, McLaurin, Garrett Wilson, Antonio Gibson, Montgomery, Aaron Jones, Godwin, Bateman, Elliott, Pickett, Tannehill. Any names jump out there?
Can you guys still see me? Because I'm trying to see if okay, cool. Then I can go look at it. Give me a second. I'm pulling up the.
That's okay. We've got a couple comments here, so let's go through that.
Go ahead.
Well, Jamie loves Eaton in the 4th, so Jamie agrees with you, Zach. So you've got that.
Glad I'm not the only one.
So you said in the 6th to 8th round?
Yeah, anywhere in that range.
Let's see. I think in the 6th round, taking Kenny Pickett when you already have Justin Herbert and Justin Field.
Yeah, that was actually my pick. That was actually more of a panic, I think I would say. Of just all the wide receivers had dried up. And I was like, well, I can take another flyer on a quarterback, and maybe if he pans out, trading for something was kind of my logic at that point because I wasn't too thrilled with any of the wide receivers. So that's actually in that mock. I drafted 2 tight ends back to back and him just with the sole purpose of maybe I can flip one of these guys for an upgraded wide receiver.
Yeah, I hated the Goddard pick, frankly.
Yeah, like I said, it was at that point I was just like, man, there was no receiver I was super crazy about. And I was just like, well, I'm going to try drying up the well here if it's a tight end premium, and then do that. So
you see, all the hate on Gabe Davis, I'd much rather have Gabe Davis than Dallas Goddard in any format, dynasty or redraft. I think Dallas Goddard, like just talked about Isaiah McKenzie's value getting murdered. I think the biggest loser from the Eagles getting AJ Brown is probably Dallas Goddard. That's a ton of targets that, like, because he can eat up the targets over the middle as well. So not necessarily drawing perimeter targets away from, say, Smith. So might actually help Devontae Smith if it opens up for him.
I think it will. I like Smith more now that there's someone else that is going to be game planned around for defenses. Because Smith was a guy I was concerned about last year. But go ahead with Goddard.
Before the trade, I would have loved Goddard as like the tight end 6 in Dynasty and maybe that next breakout that could get a lot of volume. But I think that dream's completely evaporated for me. So I don't know. You're saying there's no receivers. I'm pretty sure every receiver that went the next round outside of probably Chase Claypool, I think I'd probably rather have all of them than Goddard. Maybe I think I maybe even would probably rather have Claypool. That's maybe just my Canadian bias. Brandon Cooks 2 rounds later at the 10th, I'd rather have.
Yeah,
I think Brandon Cooks perpetually just goes way too late in drafts. So
he does.
But yeah, Gerson, you still with us? Okay, we'll hopefully he'll get back to us soon. Jamie, well, actually, yeah, I guess we didn't address this first comment I had up. So Jamie's mentioning that he took Fields at 607 in a recent startup. Yeah, that reminds me of another startup I did where, 2 QB, not even super flex, and we've had the rookie draft, so I can't remember what the startup was, but I remember. Fields fell into the mid 5th, and I was even thinking that early 5th round, I'd consider taking him if I didn't already have Herbert and Hurts. And I felt like, it's a bit of an overkill for the rest of the other really great players that were there. And I really wanted to take Fields and kind of force some scarcity, but at the same time, I just didn't, obviously. So yeah, it seems like Justin Fields has been falling. Like, in the same thing to almost what I was saying earlier with Tua and Zach Wilson, where you'd see Fields go a round and a half, 2 rounds before Zach Wilson before the NFL draft. And now it's almost flipped where Fields is going after Zach Wilson and maybe even a round later sometimes. So Fields might come in as a really great value right now in dynasty startups. Because frankly, I think he's still the rookie from last year I'd rather have. I think he'll probably do the best just for the rushing floor, fantasy-wise.
Out of all the quarterbacks?
From last year's draft.
You don't like Trey Lance?
I do, but Fields has shown more in the NFL. He's started a lot more games. He's also had, I think, 4 top 10 finishes at the end of the season, so just a little bit more to prove than Lance. I do really like Lance too, though. Those would be the 2 I would peg for that, again, similar skill set. But to be fair, Gerson, I think I think I made this point last time on this podcast. Yeah. If you like Fields before more than Lance, or you like Lance more than Fields before, Lance starting or not starting, it can be used in either direction. Where if you don't like if you're like me and you prefer Fields, you'll say, oh, well, Lance couldn't even get on the field. Whereas if you like Lance, you'll say, well, we didn't see him fail. Like Fields had so many poor games. Yeah. The few times Lance did get on the field, he was always producing. So I think I'm more leaning into just the volume of games Fields has under his belt. That's who I'd prefer between the 2.
That's fair.
I think it is going to be interesting too, because there's a lot of Garoppolo go to the Carolina Panthers, stuff like that, and that's just one more team now that's not looking for a quarterback pretty much, and the only one who really is would be Seattle that anyone can really point their finger at. Well, and they're not going to trade inside their own division. So,
I mean, Jacoby Brissett's great and all, but and now I'm thinking is Cleveland actually the likeliest team to trade for Garoppolo?
Yeah,
especially if a suspension is announced for Watson and like they know they don't have him the entire year, let's say. Do they trade for Garoppolo and have him and Brissett battle it out?
Good. It'd be.
I
I
think
mean,
they're
it'd be an
going-
upgrade
I'd
over
say-
Brissett.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think if they're going to do it, they better do it quick because they want to get these quarterbacks in before training camp starts. I think that's the biggest reason why the Panthers made that trade right now to get Baker Mayfield in for training camp with the team and everything. I mean, obviously OTA and all that already passed, but I mean, we know training camp is the knit and grit where all players report, and that's where the coaches have more freedom with their team, I guess you can say. But I have heard that whole Brown thing for Jimmy G, but I just find it very hard to believe that what's their name? The 49ers will, what are they're gonna have to eat half of that salary, I don't think the Browns are gonna pay, what is it, 24 million?
Something like that,
Something
24,
like that,
26,
yeah.
something.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly how the NFL cap works, but I mean that's a lot of money. I don't know if the Browns have that type of money.
I think
Yeah,
I know
well,
like
they're
they
paying-
didn't have to eat all of Baker's contracts. I think that might have helped, like
They're
facilitated that where
they're paying $10 million of the $18 million that Baker was owed.
I guess if they really wanted to trade for a quarterback, they probably could have just gotten Sam Darnold sent back in the deal, right? So maybe maybe the fact that they didn't tells us they're not really looking for a quarter, or I suppose we all view Jimmy Garoppolo as much better than
I'd rather
Darnold.
have Jacoby over Sam Darnold, to be honest with you.
Fair enough, and maybe the Browns did too. Maybe maybe the Panthers offered it, and the Browns said no, thank you. We'll just take some random picks. It's okay.
Yeah.
So I'm still If I had to bet any team trades for Garoppolo, I think it's Cleveland.
Yeah, it makes sense. I never really thought about that, but if he
I'm
is
sure
suspended,
Seattle might
then-
want to, but yeah, that's you're right, Devin.
Yeah,
In divisions, that might be one where, especially at the quarterback position and everything,
Yeah.
that San Francisco potential to win, even though they probably don't look at Seattle as a big threat, but maybe they also think, man, if Garoppolo's there, suddenly they become a threat. Like that might be a team that maybe doesn't make the playoffs, but like that's a problem for us to deal with when we play them. Right now, we're not so worried with Geno Smith, Drew Lock, so don't want to make a division opponent better. So
yeah, because they got a lot of weapons. They got Noah Fant, they got Metcalf, they got
Gerald Everett.
Lockett, man, I could not think. I was thinking Lock because it's all confusing now. There's a Lock and a Lockett on the team.
There's a Pickens and a Pickett on the same team as well. Like they did kind of try. Thanks NFL.
There's enough talent on that team where if you plug a decent quarterback in there, they could make some noise. They might not be a playoff contender with Jimmy Garoppolo, but they could definitely play spoiler and keep the 49ers out of the playoffs, one of their double headers that they have through the year for being in the same division.
So next comment by Jamie, also mentioning Dylan seems like a value in the 7th. And I'm going to try and reshare this screen. So hopefully it works. Did that work?
Yeah,
It
did.
All right, awesome. Okay, cool. And I mean, I actually kind of liked where I got James Conner at 7-12. I'd argue, I think all 5 of those running backs in the 7th are value. And to your point earlier, Zach, of maybe that tier break at receiver where you didn't really want to take receiver. I guess maybe I would have pushed the envelope and gone with a third running back there to pair with Darren Waller, but that's me. I always love running backs. But yeah, I like the value on all 5 of those guys, to be honest. Anyone that does, like, of those running backs, Mitchell, Jacobs, Dillon, Fournette, Connor, that doesn't seem like a value in the 7th, that feels like they're going too early there.
Wow. So yeah, I think I'd rather have Elijah Mitchell over AJ Dillon. Maybe not Josh Jacob. Leonard Fournette if I'm a win now team. But I like Connor, but the thing is, to me, is just he would have to repeat what he did last year. And I have a hard time believing that he's not gonna regress, And with Elijah Mitchell, you at least have at least 1 more 2 years with him. But we can't say that with Shanahan. But Mitchell balled out last year. But AJ Dillon, I mean, he's a great value here. But I think the only guys I'd probably take over is Elijah Mitchell over AJ Dillon. Great value though. I mean, like, this is what, the 7th round?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good point about Mitchell, and I think it's Shanahan, but I've made this point a few times too. Like, 200 was it? I think it was almost 210 carries in just 11 games. When Shanahan with the 49ers, Matt Breida was the single season touch leader or carry leader, sorry, with I think 153 or something like that entering this year. So like Elijah Mitchell just smashed that in 11 games. So he hasn't really used a running back like Mitchell yet, like that much. So that tells me like I'm gonna be more willing to invest in Mitchell this year. So I would also rather have Mitchell than Dillon. I think there's more touchdown upside there because I still think Aaron Jones is the main touchdown guy for the Packers, and he still gets the more valuable touches than Dillon. So like it did happen in our startup, and actually it was you, Gerson, you took Jones. Like I would also take Aaron Jones over AJ Dillon still in a dynasty startup.
Yeah.
And the thing with, go ahead, sorry.
The thing with AJ Dillon to me is I think he's probably one of the best handcuff, if not the best handcuff. I know everybody will say Tony Pollard, but to me, I think AJ Dillon had just as much value, if not more, than Tony Pollard. I think the Green Bay Packers are going to rely on Dillon a lot this year. He's not just a handcuff this year. I think he's a RB2 this year. I'm really high on him. So, like, if you can get him in the 7th and then, he basically becomes like an RB1 if he get into the, say Aaron, I never wish a player would get hurt, but if Aaron Jones were to go down or he get COVID or something, AJ Dillon is going to get 20 touches, 20, 25 touches for the game. And what impressed me the most about AJ Dillon since he got to the NFL is his pass catching ability. I really didn't see that when he came out of, I believe, Boston College, right? He came out of?
Yep.
Or what?
You got it.
Yeah.
No, Boston College, you got it.
Yeah, so like when he came out of there, I didn't expect his hands to be as good as they are right now. And we know one thing, Aaron Rodgers will pass you the ball. If he sees you as a running back, you can catch it. So I like AJ Dillon, but I just think Elijah Mitchell will get more touches.
I could see Dillon maybe even getting close to as many carries as Aaron Jones, but again, maybe not nearly as many touchdowns and certainly probably not as many catches anyway. But yeah, he has that upside. Whereas, I definitely, even in the startup, like what Dillon went 705, Tony Pollard went 910. So I think the dynasty community sees that as well, Gerson. But I think the reason for that is because we see Dillon as he's usable kind of on his own, even when Jones is in, and when Jones is out, he will get everything kind of towards him. Whereas Pollard can kind of be usable, but it's not every week, not consistently. Whereas Dillon, like you almost feel like you could maybe start him every week and he'll get enough carries. And if he gets the touchdown, you're happy. If not, you're probably not. But yeah, at least like I feel like more usable than some team starting running backs. I mean, there's a few starters he went before. We've already mentioned Fournette and Connor. And the one thing I just want to touch on Connor, the one reason I think that it could repeat the touchdowns is because Kenyon Drake had a really successful touchdown season the year before. And so far, like, I think now year 3 or year 4 now of this Kingsbury offense, the lead running back will get a ton of touchdown upside and touchdown opportunities. They will run a lot inside the 5, and that offensive line's gotten better. So Connor's kind of maybe been the benefit of having that offensive line kind of at its best in terms of talent they've accumulated. So that doesn't seem like it was as fluky. Maybe 16, like I think it was 16 he got last year. Maybe hitting that exact number is a little fluky, but I could still see double-digit touchdowns for Connor pretty easily. Just because, Kenny and Drake could do it. I think Connor's kind of proven enough to show that he deserves more credit than even Drake did. And Drake had a pretty successful run there. So that seems more that's just the Cardinals offense more than the individual running back. But I like Connor anyway. Anyone want to talk about the 8th round, or do we move on a little later? 9th round, 10th round?
Considering we probably only have like 10 minutes, I'll probably start grouping up some of these rounds instead of going round by round, I would think.
Yeah, we only did 14, so we are kind of close anyway. I guess we still have other teams, but
that's true.
CEH at 810 was interesting with Sanders, Singletary, Cook available. I don't know. CEH scares me. I'm more of a Rojo guy there. I don't know how much I want to put stock into Edwards-Helaire at this point, but I don't know. There's a few really good values here, though. These 8 through 10 rounds, Darnell Mooney at 8.3 I like a lot.
Mhm.
Allen Robinson at 9.12. I really like that value there. I mean, this is I know everyone says you make or break on that like 5th through 8th round, but for me, the 9th through 11th is kind of when I can get some really good production at good value.
Yeah.
I find it funny that Sky Moore and Juju Smith-Schuster went back-to-back picks. I thought that was hilarious. And actually, to your point, Zach, both of them going after Clyde Edwards-Helaire seems like I'd rather invest in the pure pass catchers there than a running back in the Chiefs offense, I think. So I'd rather have probably both those receivers than Clyde. So it's not even, I don't even think it's about the running backs there. I think it's more just I love that whole tier of receivers more than that tier of running backs, including Edwards-Helaire and Sanders.
No,
I'm out on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm out on him.
And I look at it too from a standpoint of CEH at 8.10 versus Rojo at 14.1. I'm going to take the Rojo at 14.1 every day before I take Edwards-Helaire at 8.10. I mean, just based off of value, and we don't really know what to expect with either of them, but I'd rather bet on the upside of one rather than being burnt on the other.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't like. I would guess Edwards-Helaire outproduces Jones this year, but I don't know that's strong enough that like this type of disparity in rounds, 6 rounds apart, makes up for that. Like, so yeah, I would also probably rather invest in Jones later, not paying that risk again. I think at that point, not worrying about the running backs. I don't have to worry about the running backs. Then invest in the players that can hold their value more. And again, I think that range, it's just a ton of wide receivers. That's why I went back-to-back wide receivers in the 8th and 9th rounds. And if not for Davis Mills falling, I probably would have gone like a Brandon Cooks there and gone a receiver in the 10th as well. So, yeah, I don't even think like I don't really love. It's the opposite of the 7th. Like I really don't like any of those running backs in this range, except Singletary. I'm a sucker for Singletary, but Edwards-Helaire, Sanders, Damian Harris, Tony Pollard. I'm not so interested in them when all these receivers that are kind of going around them. Much rather have them.
I think the Russell Gage pick before Kadarius Toney is kind of interesting. I mean, I understand the whole Tom Brady hype team for Russell Gage, but I mean, this is Tom Brady's last year. Say Kadarius Toney does go out there and have a great year this year, or has a breakout year or whatnot. And then obviously we know Daniel Jones is not the guy, and then they go out to the NFL draft and get a real quarterback, and Toney, longevity wise, dynasty value, I think it's higher than Russell Gage. Is it 2 or 3 years that he signed, or was it just a 1 year? But
it was a 3-year deal.
Okay.
3 year, $30 million.
Yeah, I'd rather have Toney. I think deep down, when I'm down in that area, unless I see value from like a veteran, then I get win now players. But if not, I try to go for those upside shot guys like Toney, Alberto. Let's see, definitely not Rondale Moore anymore.
Wandale Moore might be more of a, or Robinson.
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
Wandale Robinson. I confuse them. He might be
Even
more of an option.
Ramondre Stevenson right there. I think that was an interesting, a good value right there. But to take Gage before some of those guys was really the question mark for me. But I love the upside for Toney.
You're thinking guys like Lockett and Thielen will still outproduce Gage, but then he also doesn't have the long-term future value of Toney. It's almost like I made the pick but stuck in the middle, where I kind of tried to play the young, productive player and may not get the production as some of the other 12th round players, and may not get the long-term value as some of the others. So
yeah, I mean it's like that situation right now. I think Allen Robinson's that perfect situation. He's fallen all the way down, but it's because he's kind of on the older side. What is he, 28, 29 now? And then he hasn't been good for 2 years now. So like people are kind of out on him. So, but I think, he could be a wide receiver 2, a high end wide receiver 2 or low end wide receiver 3. And then you're drafting him in what round was he drafted here? Like,
I took him at the end of the 9th.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hell of a value right there. And then you got guys like, I don't know, like I can't find Robinson on here on my screen on my cell phone. So
I like the
Hopkins went a
Russell
few
Gage
picks
pick.
later, right? Like Hopkins, a guy that's going to miss a few games this season, and like Claypool and Ayuk went before Allen Robinson. I don't know that they've shown enough production wise to match that. I guess with Robinson, same round as Juju, they're both coming off really disappointing seasons, so that might also be the factor.
Yeah, I mean, there's another perfect example right next to Carson Wentz is Brandon Cooks. You know, he gives you production, and for some reason they just keep dropping, right? But I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, man, you're not going to get anything out of him, like you just said, Kyle. So, like, why not just, if you're going to go old, why not just go with, the guy that's going to be there and play there? I mean, I think Hopkins already 30, right? So, I mean, I'd rather just stick it safe with what's his name, Brandon Cooks, and then go from there. The other thing is like George Pickens. I mean, that would probably be a guy that around that range that I would probably think about drafting. I'm high on George Pickens though, so that's just me.
I am too.
So
clearly, Devin took him. So good job, Devin.
Yeah, yeah, I'm high on him too. I think he's got a lot of good upside ahead, even this year.
And I mean, it almost makes the Pickett pick make more sense to have that stack. You're not feeling it with Fields, and Pickett starting. Then the Steelers look like they have got a high upside matchup with a lot of passing attempts. That stack can be even playable even as rookies, but certainly if as they develop long term. So by making that 10th round pick, it almost makes your 6th round pick better. I still don't like the Goddard pick, but
yeah, I mean, I don't either. It was more of a panic thing, especially now looking back and seeing a lot more of these wide receivers on the board. But like I said, my intention was not to keep him. It would be if I was doing this as a startup to hopefully use him as bait. But I do have a question for you guys as far as I like personally when I'm doing dynasty startups, especially super flex, I like to have 3 quarterbacks. So that was another reason why I went in for Pickett, was just because even though I'm a huge Bears homer and I love Justin Fields, there is a chance he doesn't work out, So having Herbert was, great. I mean, I'm locked in for 15 years there. But, that's another reason I ended up taking Pickett a few rounds later was, okay, if Fields doesn't work out, I have another guy in the wings, or potentially just have a nice 3-headed committee that I can rely on for bye weeks or injuries.
I did a startup where I took Mills kind of right around where I took him in this mock startup, like 9th, 10th round. So that's kind of my go-to play right now, I suppose, so far in Dynasty startups this year is, especially buying into Brandon Cooks. So I think Brandon Cooks will succeed because Davis Mills will be doing enough well to kind of get him to produce. He might still buy himself, his rookie contract. It seems like there's 2 really amazing, like can't miss quarterback prospects that if Houston can select, probably will and replace Mills. But outside of those 2 guys, if Mills does well enough to kind of avoid that range and Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are unavailable to the Texans, is it unrealistic to think they keep going with Mills for another year?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think he had a bad year last year. I mean, he showed some flashes, which is more than you can say for like even Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence looked like crap all year long. Like, I think Davis Mills had some better games than what Trevor Lawrence had.
I love Fields, but yeah, for the most of the season, Mills looked a lot better than Fields did. So
yeah, agreed.
He for a big stretch of last year, I think Mac Jones had more total points because he started every game. But I think if you look at points per game, I believe Davis Mills was the highest scoring fantasy quarterback rookie last year from points per game perspective.
I found it interesting that Jared Goff fell all the way to 14-5 with some of the other QBs selected before him. I mean, especially in a yearly format, in a redraft league, like some people are really aggressive on him just due to the fact of who the weapons are around him. And I mean, obviously there's some questions about his future and what he can be, but the weapons are there. And I mean, I'd still take him over a Locke, Brissett, even maybe a Willis, because some of those QBs in this draft class are definitely concerning. So, I mean, if you're going for a 3rd stringer, I like Goff over a few of these guys.
Especially considering the team build, right? Lawrence, Tua, do you want to, like, to your credit, like even like Willis you could probably argue that value Willis over Goff. But do you really want to add another young quarterback to there? At least get someone is going to be starting that year in stability. If Tua or Lawrence falter, you can fall back on Goff in the short term. So yeah, I like that approach, especially considering the team build there.
And I'm also surprised to see the Quinnifer not be more aggressive on Jacoby based off the fact that they took Deshaun in the 2nd round. if anyone were to take Jacoby, I would think it's the person that has Deshaun and kind of banking on whenever he comes back from suspension.
I wonder if that's the Matt Ryan pick, right? It was all right. From a dynasty perspective, I don't care if Watson's not here. I can figure out that QB3 for the season really cheaply outside the startup. Whereas they've got Dak, they've got Matt Ryan. I wonder if that strategy is different if they didn't have Dak before Watson. And Watson was truly their QB1, and you want the insurance on that. I wonder if going with Dak and Watson makes it less likely to happen. You're already investing that much in quarterback. Clearly, they didn't want to leave the startup with 4 quarterbacks. They might have done that.
So I think it all, to me, in this kind of format, Superflex, I mean, it roster size to me. Roster size is very important because if I have 2 stud quarterbacks, I'm going to want to not worry about my third quarterback. I'm going to either go all in on wide receiver, running back, tight end, whatnot. But it depends how great my quarterbacks are. If I know for sure, they've been healthy year in, year out. I mean, I got Kyler Murray and what's his name, Stafford. I mean, I can't say Kyler is going to stay healthy because he's been known to be a crybaby. So, I mean, but the thing is, that's why I drafted Winston later on in the, I think, the 8th round or something? Ninth round. But if I wanted to, I just felt like he was a better value there. But if I wanted to, there's 3 quarterbacks that I'm taking in the late rounds. It's Winston. It was Baker. Like, I honestly would take Baker in the last round.
He's probably not going that much earlier. Like, he's probably still gonna, like, he might go ahead of Winston now, but probably not earlier than the 9th. Like, probably the same round.
So before the news happened, I was drafting in Startup Dynasty. I was drafting Baker late. Like, I was like, I'm just gonna.
He went undrafted in ours, so yeah, for sure.
So I mean, like Baker, and then what's his name, Desmond Ridder, because I think Mariota they're gonna give that key to Desmond Ridder sooner than later. I don't think Mariota is that great of a quarterback. I think he's trash. So, and they're gonna want to see what they have in Desmond Ridder. By the time they want to see what they have in Desmond Ridder, it'll probably be a bye week for Stafford or Kyler.
So not forcing the issue with your QB3 in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th round. Like, get your 2 elite guys and then wait till 8th, 9th, 10th round, and there's guys available. Even like Zach, you took Daniel Jones in the 10th round. I know that was your QB2, but I mean, especially as a QB3, I'd love that for the production. Like, I probably preferred him over the couple of quarterbacks that went ahead. I mean, I think I have Daniel Jones ahead of Davis Mills in my dynasty ranking, so I kind of betrayed my rankings a little bit going with Mills and not Daniel Jones. So good pick there.
I mean, I was watching Daniel Jones and just kind of value. There was a few QBs I wanted, but looking back, the only one I regret not taking when I did was probably Tua instead of Kittle. But otherwise, I didn't really love the values. I was looking at Zach Wilson where I took Etienne, but people were aggressive on him. And at that point, I just kept rolling it back. And then I was going to play the waivers for the 3rd one because I don't necessarily love DJ as my 2nd one, but, I'm not going to be super aggressive either. I mean, I feel good about all the other positions I have. So, hey, if I have to roll with one QB sometimes, so be it. But I feel great about all my other positions.
And not to rag on Gerson or anything. I mean, sorry, G, but like the idea of if you're going to go with an elite tight end, I also don't like really getting the backups. Now I get with Kelsey, he's older, so getting 2 young backups, Quabonon and Njoku makes sense. But for you, Zach, you made that early decision on Kittle, and then you didn't bother taking the backup tight end.
I have Pitts as well.
Oh, you did. Sorry, I was missing.
I have Pitts and Kittle. Yeah, so I stacked, and I also, it's like I like to get greedy with the top end tight ends if I see one of them falling, because then I have that as a trade chip at some point. Say I want to try and get, say, another QB at some point, a Kittle, Daniel Jones package where I can find someone that has 3, but they're also desperate at tight end, and I can kind of make a move to try and upgrade there. Or if it's not even addressing the QB, but I want to try and get a future first, that 2023 class, and I'm trying to consolidate picks, get more first rounders. I'm going to use George Kittle there. And especially the tight end position is a great one to kind of hoard in a startup draft and then let the midseason desperation kick in. Because there's a lot of guys people like to take as flyers, Albert O, Pat Fryermuth, Dawson Knox. There's a lot of guys we make these cases for the upside and we're excited about during the offseason. And, it's pretty scarce after that top 4 to 6 guys. And if they're suddenly only putting up 4 to 6 points a week on average, you're hoping someone's selling one of those top tier guys. And that's when I'm going to try and drive the price up and get a good return.
And just back to the tight ends, I love the way Doc structured his team, right? Mark Andrews in the second, and then there's no backup tight end. Worry about the backup tight end off the waivers. I mean, I can think of a few guys that we didn't draft in this, like a Gerald Everett that's going to be available. So knowing that, even myself, I took Zach Ertz at the 11th. I was playing chicken with Jeff. Jeff, I believe, was team 1. Who would be the first to take a tight end? And I wondered. I thought for sure he'd take one before me, but I ended up taking Ertz in the 11th, and he went Jelani Woods in the 14th. And I think, if this was a real startup draft and then there was a roster attached to it and there's a taxi squad, it actually makes a lot of sense for Jeff to take Jelani Woods in the draft, and you place him in your taxi squad and you can go pick up another tight end off the waivers, because again, there's guys available. So kind of like how Jeff structured that too. So if you key moves and I'm sorry for ragging on you, Gerson, because to be fair, taking Okwepon on the 12th and then Njoku in the 13th, that's not really serious investments. So you went a while after the Kelsey pick and didn't double up. I'm trying to think of an example. I guess most people who took an early tight end were pretty disciplined, except Zach going with Pitts Kittle. But if you're going to do it with 2 elite guys. I suppose maybe, the team that went Dalton Schultz in the 7th, I'm not crazy about them taking Trey McBride in the 12th, for instance. If you're going to make that investment on tight end in Schultz and say he's going to be maybe not a difference-making tight end, but taking him in the 7th to where he's the tight end 1 all year and you're riding him out, don't really want to hoard the rookie behind that. I don't know. Maybe personally,
So my thought on Kelsey and getting those tight end, I was probably going to put Kelsey in my flex spot. It's just because I think this is a 14 round. So it's either I trade away Kelsey and get value, or I play Kelsey in my flex spot. It's just something I've been doing for a couple of years now, playing Kelsey in my flex spot and put in my breakout tight end. And I've done it pretty well. I mean, last year was the only year I haven't nailed that breakout tight end. I had Gerald Everett, but it didn't work out. But I'm really high on Albert O this year. I have Albert O, I think, at tight end 9. So I'm pretty damn high on him. And then David Njoku, I mean, Jeff was saying something that the Browns, if you put their tight end stats all together, they're tight end 9 yesterday. But
right, yeah, you accumulated through the season stretches where Bryant did well, where Hooper did well, and Njoku, but never all on one.
Yeah, but it's all dependent. I mean, I think with a 14 player draft, it's really all about roster build and how you kind of put it all together to win now or build for later. But I think in a 14 roster spot, I think I'm going to go more for win now, because it'll be very hard to build for the long distance without having those extra dart throw wide receivers or running back, that come out of nowhere.
Yeah, so it shows with your running back room, right? I mean, you did take Dameon Pierce, but the first 3 guys are all kind of older second contract guys: Jones, Fournette, Chase Edmonds. So, and then Kelsey, Hill, a lot of older players, even the stats like QB2. You've got a couple of young pieces throughout, anchor pieces like Kyler Murray, AJ Brown. So you didn't just completely ignore the youth either. You found areas to take young productive players when it matched. But it seems like you were just going for almost, at this point, who can score the most points. And if there's a young player there, great, I'll take them. If not, then it doesn't matter. Just go with the points and worry about the youth later.
Yeah.
Okay, and I guess this is the portion of the show we'll talk about each team in particular. So Gerson, Kyrie, Matthew Stafford, Jameis Winston, like I mentioned, Jones, Fournette, Edmonds, Pierce, AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill, Courtland Sutton, Alan Lazard. Not a deep wide receiver room, but especially those first 3 names, really like a lot of the upside there. Then we talked about a bit of a deeper. I think, you were the only person who took 3 tight ends in this draft. So Kelsey, Okwebunon, and Njoku. But you also mentioned, your strategy behind that and why it makes sense. And sometimes I guess if you're going to be the only one to do something, you've maybe cornered the market, not so much at the top tight ends like Zach's trying to do, but at the bottom end tight ends, right? The panic might still be there where either of those 2 increases in value enough where you keep Kelsey and you actually trade one of the breakout guys that someone, buys high on during the season as well. So you can kind of also play it both directions. Zach, did you want to talk about your team at all? Starting Burrow, you got the Bengals stack in there.
I think my team, this is one of the few different approaches I have with my startup drafts. It's not necessarily win now, but it's something where I feel I'm very future orientated, where I have a lot of guys I feel really good about. I can be relatively middle of the pack with a lot of my weapons. Obviously, there's a little bit of concern at QB, but most of my team is really young. And, mid-season, if it's looking rough, I have Montgomery and Kittle are going to be the 2 guys I'm trying to trade away immediately, try and get more draft assets, get first-round picks in 2023. But, otherwise, Pitts, Mixon, Etienne, Burrow, Devonta, Watson, Claypool, all these guys I feel great about going into the 23 season with. And then if I'm adding in any of those top tier running backs or QBs from the 23 class, I feel like I'm jumping into kind of like the prime of my team where I can be competitive for a while. So it's not necessarily, hey, we're coming out and we're trying to kick everyone's ass this year, but the future is bright. It's a good core, and I got plenty of options going forward.
And just to kind of think it through, it didn't quite occur to me that the handcuff of Etienne and Robinson there. So nice late value on Robinson to get that handcuff.
That's exactly why I took. I'm scared of the Achilles injury, but I always try and get Robinson if I have Etienne.
And we'll show Gerson's team too. We didn't do that on its own. Gerson, did you want to add anything about your team or Zach's team?
No, Zach's team more like what he just said, it's not a rebuild or anything like that, but it can compete for the playoff, but maybe not a championship contender, but still he's building for the future with the Kyle Pitts and great assets he has. My team's a win now team. There's nothing about it that doesn't say win now. It's either win now and, keep my picks and don't trade them away, because I'm probably going to need those picks, especially the 2023 draft. I know last year, and I said it a lot with Kyle, with all the shows we did, I was trading away all my 2022 picks, and I did. But in a lot of those leagues that I traded 2022 picks, I either made a championship or I was in the playoff. I was in contention, so I didn't regret it, But 2023 picks, I'm keeping those like Bitcoins, even though the market crashed. But I don't see that market crashing anytime soon.
I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go right ahead, Zach.
I was just want to say too, with some of the draft approach stuff, I'm trying to identify where everyone else is at. Like Kittle at 5'7" seems like good value to me there, and I know tight ends and running backs are always needed, especially for competitors. And I look around a lot of these other rosters, and I'm seeing plenty of teams that could potentially need a tight end if they're trying to make that push and they feel like they have everything, or if they need that extra running back to take them over the top. And that's where I can really kind of get as much possible in return as probably more than I should realistically get. But that's because they're so convinced they're that one piece away from being the champion. And I'm going to sell them on that, and I'm going to reap the rewards of that and then just focus on the next year. But I have all the positions already addressed for the most part. Plus, if I go full tank second half of the year, I'm never against that. If I've got enough weapons, I'm already happy about.
Liquidate. Be flexible. And Frumpled over here, Devin, you want to talk about your team?
Had a really strong first 4 rounds, I feel like, and then some of the wheels fell off. Made some bad decisions, but hindsight being 2020, good thing it was just a mock and not an actual startup, or else I'd be kicking myself a lot more. But hopefully, if this was a real league, I'd be able to maybe move some of those pieces for some higher upside guys. But at the end, it was just, take a flyer on wide receivers. That's why I ended up taking Ridley late. Alec Pierce has some upside. Robert Woods, at least for this year, to give me another starter because don't really have much in the way of starters on that team. But, there were some pieces there. But, yeah, overall, not the best I've ever done.
So speaking on that, so like we're learning about how to do the draft, right? Like this is what the whole last two podcasts been. If you in a real draft, you'll be able to trade.
Mhm.
Hopefully, they allow you to trade. If they don't allow you to trade, you should put that from the beginning. Like say what happened to him where he drafted Darren Waller and then he accidentally drafted Goddard. I would have gone and looked at Goddard and then maybe switch with someone around that round to see if they wanted Goddard, and then maybe, that way you're not screwed over, or, the Kenny Pickett pick or like, you're like, oh crap, whatever, but you can trade. If you fuck up, oops, sorry, you can trade, Sorry, Kyle,
Gerson's
don't
messed up
cancel
a
me.
little. But like even like when that pick where Kenny Pickett's available and it's kind of the last quarterback in a tier, like when that pick drops, like that kind of also raises the value of those startup picks. They're kind of in between, depends on where the tiers fall at certain positions as well. So that dynamic of trading is interesting. But yeah, I actually really like the team, Devin. I'm on you for the Goddard, but I like the young running backs, deep at quarterback. Some solid receivers there.
It would look a lot better had Goddard not been there and Mike Williams or someone like that. Or no, Mike Williams, I guess, went right before that. But Juju, Claypool, maybe someone
I was going to say Gabe Davis.
instead.
We love Gabe Davis so much, right?
Yeah, right.
Look better.
Yeah, any wide receiver there honestly would look better than Goddard. It'd make the team look a lot better. So
I'm just going to say this. In the third round, after you made your CD Lamb pick, you typed in the chat, man, I wish this was a real draft. I would love my team.
Hey, after 2 rounds,
right now, bud.
I stand by that. After 2 rounds, I was thrilled. I still am.
I love your team until like really through 7 rounds, to be honest. So good job. Because I'm looking at my team, I'm not as so in love with it through 7. Maybe some picks I could have made better, but started the 2 elite quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Jalen Hurts at the tail end when you can get 2 quarterbacks there. I think that's the play in Superflex. Stephon Diggs, Barkley, Mike Evans, Jerry Jeudy, James Conner, Marquise
I love
Brown,
your team.
Allen Robinson, Zach Ertz, Russell Gage, Melvin Gordon, Ronald Jones.
Dude, I love your
quieter
team.
and quieter. There's less value.
No, your team's awesome. Your team's a top win now team for sure, and you have some young asset. I mean, and like I believe in Barkley. I'm a big Barkley believer. I still think he's gonna have a breakout, not a breakout, a bounce back breakout / whatever the hell you want to call it. I mean, you still got Barkley, Judy. You got your true quarterback. I mean, that's solid. I mean, all the rest of your players are win now players, but I mean, is that Stephon Diggs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your team pretty. Yeah, I think your team's one of the best teams in this draft, to be honest with you.
Well, that was going to be our next question. What team do we all really like? So Gerson's saying mine, thanks. Does anyone else have any teams that really stand out to them as kind of this could be the contender, this could be the winner?
Can you scroll up a little bit just so I can see the first round so that panned out?
First round's important, isn't it?
Just to know where the quarterbacks are.
I think that 103, I like the Swift Hall combo there, and then Mac Jones, Patrick Mahomes.
They may have one of the best running back rooms in the league.
Oh, yeah, they're stacked at running back.
No, I don't necessarily love Gesicki, but hey, I mean, they got Higbee for cheap late, and I mean, they have plenty of assets where if they need to trade for a certain position.
I didn't love Gesicki either, but at that price, like in the 10th round, like that's okay. You're at the point where you like if he does bad enough, you cut him. I guess in Dynasty maybe you don't quite cut him, but like that's the redraft mentality with tight ends. I was looking at that team as well. Even the 104 right next to it, Doc. Certainly win now with the quarterbacks, Jackson, Brady. That's like right off the bat, the Jackson Andrews stack. I love the wide receiver room. Metcalf, Bateman, both Chargers receivers. I did that to start up actually. Luckily I had Herbert as well, so I was able to get like the full stack of all 3. I like taking both in on the same team. I don't see any qualms about it. Juju as well. So great value in the receivers. And then Derrick Henry's kind of the anchor running back piece. And they can kind of like I know it is stock, kind of built the zero RB back end approach, right? A lot of injury away guys. That's churn the back at roster.
Isn't this hero RB? Is that the new thing they're calling it? Hero RB?
Yeah, when you go one early like that, this would probably qualify as a hero RB. But even then, like hero RB taking your first and the fifth is still probably a little late, but it allowed him to maximize at other positions. So yeah, I love Doc's team. He wasn't. I know he was here last week, but too bad he wasn't here to hear the spoils of that. Anything else we want to talk about?
Good luck in your Scott Fishbowl drafts.
Yeah,
Mr. Big Peril. The Big Peril.
I feel like I'm missing out being done with mine already. I'm jealous of that part. I know everyone's going to have a party this weekend, and I'm just waiting to see what the rosters look like.
I'm excited.
So team one, I guess that's Jeff's team. I guess they're saying, So Jeff, a little bit of not so much built through the running backs. There's a lot of, Josh Allen and a ton of receivers. But yeah, building through young rookie running backs team solid. Jamie's mentioning that he took Baker in the 17th a week ago. So back to your comments, Gerson, of how cheap he was before the news. Jamie's got a question for us. I guess we'll end with this question before we head out of here. What's your thoughts on Trask for next year? I took him in the 21st round.
He's trash.
He's kind of trash.
Yeah, he can't even beat out freaking Blaine Gabbert, man. So like, what makes you think he's gonna be something? And by that time, let's see, Mike Evans will be 30. Russell Gage, Gronk is not there. So what?
Godwin will hopefully be recovered.
Godwin will be recovered. I mean, I don't think there's anything to really think for him, especially next year. There's probably going to be like 6 quarterbacks that you can draft, and they're probably going to take one.
I think, I have 6 projected for the first round next year. And I mean, some of those are going to be late first round guys, but someone like Van Dyke, I could see being a late first round pick, and I'd rather take him than rely on Trask for my future.
Well, and I didn't have any Trask on any of my dynasty teams, Jamie, but I did just cut Kellen Mond off one of my teams. And I actually like Mond more than Trask, just the mobility, that aspect. We talked about the Konami code thing Gerson mentioned earlier. Yeah. So if that's telling you, like, I'm fine cutting Mond, I'm also fine cutting Trask if needed. So we're not, we're clearly an anti-Trask podcast here. So sorry. Mr. Scamper's talking about the great Gabbert. Yeah. Great. Everyone can put the blame on
there's a crazy stat out there about Gabbert. Like, I can't remember it, but it's so crazy because it puts him up to a bunch of great Hall of Fame quarterback, and then there he is. And it's like, what? But I'll find it one day and I'll retweet it with this. But I can't remember what it was, though, but it was like mind-blowing.
Probably not a stat that matters too much if he's doing good at it, to be honest.
I can't remember it.
It's my argument against baseball, right? You got Michael Jordan, one of the greatest athletes of all time, and he was just okay at baseball. It means baseball's probably not that important then. Like, sorry, Zach.
I'm not even going to touch it.
Silkiest lettuce, probably.
Sure.
Is it like the hair? Are you talking about like the flow, the locks?
I hope so.
Luscious Gabbert locks?
I hope so. Otherwise, I have no clue what that means.
Okay.
Well, I don't even know what Blaine Gabbert looks like anymore.
I don't know if I ever knew what he looked like. Yeah, okay, he is talking the hair, yeah.
Okay.
So I guess, tweet. I don't know how I did that. There you go. Hair. But yeah, we'll let us get out of here, let's say. So let the guests go first. Zach, anything you want to plug before we leave?
No, nothing new. Just bouncing around some shows, doing the Podathon with Gladys at a really early slot, coming up. Otherwise, just good luck to everyone in the Scott Fishbowl drafts. Looking forward to seeing how it goes for everyone. And thanks for having me as always.
Yeah, appreciate you coming and stopping back on and joining us on the mock as well, but also joining us on the episodes. Gerson, anything you want to share?
Not much. Just follow me every Friday during the NFL season for DFS advice. I try to give out the best advice, and I drink a lot of beer. But right now, I'm trying to lose weight. So far, I'm down 10 pounds. Hopefully, I reach my goal by NFL season, so I can drink beer again. And no, just follow me at Fantasy GDFS. And to be honest, one big shout out I want to give to, and that's Zach. Follow him at the Big Pulowski on Twitter and go look at his thread about the Scott Fishbowl. That stuff was awesome. I legit like digested it for like 2 hours because I was like, all right, I'm gonna create my ranking for Scott Fishbowl because it's way different. I had to make like my own tiers too because I was like, okay, did we know this quarterback 66%, but does he complete enough passes? You go on, and then the running back, tight end. Next thing you know, tight ends are so damn valuable. They're more valuable than running backs and wide receivers. So it's like you have to it's like that math gift. You try to put it all together, and he freaking nailed it so perfectly.
I
down to
appreciate
the point.
Now, my one quick piece of advice: be aggressive on your early QBs because the bottom tier, that middle tier, you're playing a dangerous game, and if there's not high volume and they're not necessarily efficient, like Brady scored 450 points, and only one wide receiver scored over 400. And for the most part,
Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, and not many scored in the 300s either. So that wide receiver 10, almost 200 points different from Tom Brady at the top. So if you wanna be aggressive and get your guys early. So get those quarterbacks, and that's all I have to say about that.
Going QB to start is super viable.
Oh, that's what I'm doing.
I remember last year I got lucky. I went Herbert and I got Hurts in the third round because he was falling there. But yeah, I don't know that Hurts is going to necessarily fall in the third after the success he had last year. So you may not be able to count on the third round value like he did last year at quarterback. I mean, I didn't even make the playoffs, so what do I know? But Devin, tell us what you do know. Anything that the listeners of yours should know about you?
No, I'm prepping for my first Scott Fishbowl draft, so I'm looking forward to that. So it kicks off Monday. So this weekend I'm gonna do some deeper dives. Probably review Zach's post there again, get some advice that way. And if any of you guys have any tips, listeners, or you guys in here with us, I'd appreciate them. I got the fourth spot, so I'm feeling pretty good about at least I'm gonna have a top tier QB. So probably Burrow. If I had to guess, I'm probably gonna get it 4.
Burrow.
Yes. Burrow will be gone, but Burrow.
See, I figure it's going to be Herbert. Yeah, 104. I'll probably get Burrow, I think. Yeah. If I don't get Burrow, that means that either.
Then you'll be even happier.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. I'm pretty excited about it, but I definitely got a lot to look at this weekend.
Shoot me a message, Devin. I'll give you. I've made some going for 2 articles too with a whole bunch of charts and shit, but I'll share a whole bunch of that stuff. But Burrow QB1 in that format, by the way. So if he's there at 4.
Nice.
The Big Pulowski is the big connection here. Speaking of Scott Fishbowl, I kind of hinted at it earlier. So Monday, a special episode of Press Coverage. We will be talking about the Scott Fishbowl. I'm going to invite on, I guess, technically all my league mates in the Letterkenny division. So I don't know how many will actually show up. I know a few have already kind of messaged and kind of indicated the interest. So we're just going to kind of talk about a bunch of things. I'll do my high fives instead of everyone's top 5. I'll just get everyone's top choice from each of those 5 categories, but we'll make it we'll incorporate stuff from the usual press coverage episodes, but a bit of a special one for the Scott Fishbowl since it is happening on the day the Scott Fishbowl kicks off. So I figured it's appropriate. But an hour and a half, I guess. So much of the mock draft talk and the teams and the strategies. It's appropriate that we went this long, but appreciate Gerson, Zach, co-host Evan, all the viewers and listeners for tuning in to this episode of the Dynasty Gambit. Bye for now, everyone.